Hello and welcome back to another episode of the InnerFight Podcast. My name is Marcus Smith. Thank you for joining me. Today I have an incredibly special guest. I was actually offered this guest a while ago and I didn't really know what I was going to ask him, to be totally honest, because I know him, I know his children, I know their children, so his grandchildren, and I started to think about it and I incubated the idea. And then one day I reached out to his daughter and I said, do you think you could arrange for your dad to come and speak to me for the podcast? And I'm so glad I did. In the next 45, 50 minutes, I hope you will take as much from my guest today as I took. Maybe this was a little bit of a selfish show. I was asking him questions that I wanted to know the answer to. I was looking for the answer or different secrets that I wanted to use, but I'm sure those answers and what we speak about in today's show will help so many people. I have listened to the show back and I'm going to listen to it again. And I hope you listen to it more than once or slow down a little bit as we speak about, maybe take out a pen and a piece of paper and make some notes. I've talked it up a lot. It was absolutely one of the best hours of my week and such an honor to have today's guest on the show. This is episode number 868 of the InnerFight Podcast. Life Lessons with Abu Teymour. Enjoy the show. So we refer to you as Abu Teymour. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us, your first name is Saad.
That's right.
We said that that's a little bit hard to pronounce. In the Arabic culture, you take the name of your eldest son, Teymour.
That's right.
If you didn't take his name, if you didn't have boys, there's a chance that you might have a girl's name.
That's right. And that will be the father of that girl. For instance, Yasmin is my eldest. So.
Culture is huge.
Yeah.
And you come from a country and you've lived in a country which has incredible culture. What does culture mean to you?
Tradition, history, experience, and some wisdom.
Some wisdom. I feel that a lot of cultural things and the history and tradition is important to you.
Well, it is. You know, I was educated in 3 systems. Until maybe 10 years of my studies, it was an Islamic school. That's why my Arabic is good. And even I dream and think of and count in Arabic.
Really?
Then I went to a Quaker's school and I did my English studies, A-level, O-level. And then I went to an American university and went to the American school. So I went into 3 cultures.
Wow.
That's why I'm multicultural, and as a Levantine, I can adapt to all but belong to none.
Do you like that freedom?
That's not my definition. That's a definition of a very famous Lebanese historian, Professor Salibi.
Really?
Who defined the Levantine as such.
So you've answered one of the questions that I was going to ask you.
Tell me.
In that your English slang comes from the Quakers.
Yes.
Incredible.
Yes.
And that was so, I don't want to be rude, but quite a number of years ago now.
Well, it was between 60 and 63.
Where was that?
Brumana High School in the mountains of Lebanon.
Wow.
Still a beautiful school that was started by the Quakers.
And that's where you learned the English? Or
No, my English was good from before. I like reading a lot. But I guess, because we had all English professors. So it was...
They taught you all of our bad things.
Exactly.
and none of the good stuff.
No, the good things. I have good memories.
So let's wind back. Where were you born?
Beirut, Lebanon.
Are we allowed to know which year?
Sure, 1945, May 2nd. Nothing to hide.
Nothing to hide. Tell us about life growing up in Beirut in that time.
Well, it was the golden days of Beirut. I can say that, going to the school in Beirut and then to the mountains were beautiful days. And at that time, sports was important, especially at the Quaker school. But it was mostly swimming and tennis for me. I mean, I've no track, no all these things that are difficult for me. I was a little overweight, so it didn't help.
Right.
But then I went to the American University of Beirut, which has a beautiful campus, and tennis courts and walking and things like that. So
Life then and what people see and perhaps know Lebanon for now must be, you must have almost two separate visions in your mind.
Yeah, Lebanon at this time is marred with lots of problems. And I was there last week with my boys. And of course you see the family, but it's not normal situation. It has not been normal since I left and came to Dubai 50 years ago.
Is that why, did you leave because of the situation?
No, it was coincidence. My father-in-law lived here and we came to visit and we stayed.
Too far to fly 3 hours home, you decided to
this
stay.
This was 72.
So you moved to Dubai in 72.
Yes.
Tell us what you found when you got here.
Wow, it was a sleepy town. It was so nice, so beautiful. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody was accessible. They used to take 4 or 5 hours in the day for siesta and things. It was a very calm and quiet place. And it has changed tremendously during the past 50 years. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it has a lot. When you came to visit your father-in-law, what was it that you felt about Dubai that made you want to set up your life here?
Ease of accessibility to people, to decision makers. The ruling family was very welcoming. They were, as a matter of fact, His Highness was a little younger than myself, and we knew him very well.
Yeah.
And we used to spend lots of time. We used to go visit Sheikh Rashid at will. Things were, as a matter of fact, I can tell you something. If you have still the cable and wireless book of telephones,
yes,
you could see the bedroom of the ruler, the salon of the Minister of Defense. Accessible to anybody.
Wow.
So, the whole thing has changed, of course.
Was that normal of that era? Was that normal in Beirut?
No.
Could you do that?
No, it was not. No, Beirut was much more sophisticated at that time when I came here. Yeah. As a matter of fact, people in Dubai used to look up to Beirut and learn from them. And as a matter of fact, when my father-in-law moved here, he told me he moved to Dubai. I said, where?
Really?
Where is Dubai?
No way.
Yeah. Now Dubai is unbelievable. You say just Dubai everywhere, and they tell you.
72 was before the union, before the UAE was formed?
No, after.
Just after?
After. It was formed December 2nd, 71.
So, right.
And I moved here in September 72.
Wow. So they had the currency of the dirham, or they were still using the rupee?
No, they were using Dubai Qatar Riyal.
Wow.
Because of the intermarriage between the two families.
Wow.
And then it became the dirham, of course.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't, in my days, it was not rupee.
So that must have stopped maybe in the 60s or something, I guess.
Believe so.
Yeah.
I believe so.
So at 27 years old, you arrive in a town that's incredibly sleepy. You can call the ruler. What did you see for yourself?
Well, you see, I was working at the time in a triangle between Tehran, Beirut, and Dubai. And I was looking for industrial projects in Iran. I still kept my house in Beirut. And then I got my own house here in 75, which was basically the start of the civil war in Lebanon. And we decided that this is our base.
This is it. What does it feel like for someone that's rooted in culture, rooted in tradition, brought up in a beautiful country that Lebanon still is in many ways, but the first 30 years of your life, the civil war started and you've almost made this decision, now Dubai, this is me now, or this is my family, this is my life, and you've lived it because you're still here today. That must have been a crazy time for you.
Well, I guess the decision to stay was mainly because of the civil war. But a more important reason to stay is the welcome that we had from the various structures of the society, from the citizens of Dubai, citizens of Fujairah, citizens of Sharjah. We knew them all. So, I come from a family in Beirut that was known to them. So that helped for me to integrate.
You've come across something that I think still is quite prevalent in Dubai, and maybe you've got some views on this about the world generally. A lot of our success is based on who we know, not what we know, for the most part. That was quite prevalent in the early days of Dubai.
Yes, but I had both. Who and what.
So that's why you were so successful.
That was helpful, yes.
That's, but do you still think Dubai's like that? Do you still think there's a lot of the who you know going on?
They're not as accessible as they used to be. And for very good reason. They are too busy.
Yeah.
They have so many things on their plate.
Yes.
They can barely have time to see everyone.
When we see people moving to Dubai now, and I think it's exacerbated through the years, a lot of people, families, are shocked. Where are you going? What's it going to be like when you get there? I was talking to some people just a week or so ago that, it was on the plane actually when I was coming back from the UK, and the gentleman sat next to Holly asked her if she was allowed to drive here in Dubai. We're looking at him going, okay, that's okay. It's, but in 72, how did it feel for your family that you'd left behind? You said your father-in-law was here, yes. But how was that chemistry?
Well, my wife's family is a large family, and I knew them when they were young, and they were living here with their parents. So we had a big circle of nucleus family, and then friends, and then from Lebanese friends and Palestinian friends. So it was not difficult to integrate and to have roots, to set roots.
So I guess that's quite different then to when people are moving here from Europe, or when people are moving from Australia or the Americas. The dynamic, would you say it's easier for you guys that have moved from surrounding countries?
Well, definitely it is. When I moved here, the local community was around only 60,000.
Wow.
Today, Dubai is 3.6 million population, out of which I think 10 to 11% is local population, which makes it around between 350 and 400,000. So Now there are 200 nationalities in Dubai. And at the time when we came, it was basically Iranian, Indian, Pakistani, and of course the British community. But there were very few Americans, very few French, or Australians, or what have you.
A lot of, not now so much, but back then, things were based on community, like you said, people knowing each other. What sort of, talk us through about maybe the communities that you mixed in that supported you and that gave you life and satisfaction in the early days. I'm interested to hear, because I mean, for myself, I remember Dubai Country Club in 1983, 1985, and it was the only place that, you said the British was the only place that we went. And I think in Bahrain, there's actually, I don't know if it's still there, but there was the British Club.
That's right.
Which is, it's very colonial of us, but very, we like to do things like that.
You know, I knew several British nationals here because I did work with Dubai Aluminium, and that was predominantly British and very fine people. Also, the technocrats around Sheikh Rashid were also Brits. I mean, whether it's the water department, whether it's the fiscal department, whether it's so basically, but I was not a club person.
Yeah.
You know, so I never was part of the colonial clubs, as you mentioned.
So what was community and what was life then?
Well, we used to basically every Friday, we used to go into the desert and look for a tree to go sit under, have the straw carpets there, get our sandwiches and drinks and what have you, and spend the day. And
Right.
the kids would go into the desert and play and what have you. That was our, there were no parks, there were no, the people, as a matter of fact, used to pass by the Iranian hospital, which was the only garden. And they would look at the trees, they would look at the flowers, they would look at the grass. Yeah.
Just in shock that there was some greenery growing in this, in this desert. Yeah, it actually, I never really thought about that.
Yeah.
Because now I mean, when we came in 83 and we were living in Trade Center apartments in Sheikh Zayed Road, there was no greenery at all.
At all, zero. And as a matter of fact, that road used to be called the Iranian Hospital
Correct,
Road.
yeah.
It was not
I
Al
still
Wasl
call
Road.
it. I still call it Iranian Hospital.
It was not
Road.
Al Wasl Road.
And it wasn't Sheikh Zayed Road. It was Abu Dhabi Road.
No.
It's an interesting, yeah.
Yes.
It's. Do you think that, like, do you ever stop and think, actually, I haven't been here. You've been here 50 years, and yes, it's a long time. But do you ever compare it to advancements in other countries and how fast this country has advanced, and just wonder how?
Well, I mean, some people call it a miracle.
Yes.
Others call it a vision. I think it was a combination of that plus good luck, because definitely Dubai has benefited from the problems of what surrounds them. And especially the past 2-3 years with the Ukrainian war, and then now with the Gaza war, and with all these, everybody wants to come to the place of comfort. So, and they say, come, and we welcome you, and we will build for you. And, you know, this is what happened. The place developed in such fast, too fast, as a matter of fact. But they have been trying to keep up with it.
Yeah. Do you think it's safe
to be in Dubai? I compared Dubai to Switzerland during World War II. Everybody has invested here, and they want to keep their investment safe.
Yeah. It's interesting, isn't it? Because and you put it so beautifully there, we're surrounded by trouble. Some of them have been going throughout the time. Some of them have moved geographical locations by the decade almost. We had Iran-Iraq struggles. We had the war, and we've had troubles in, as we say, in the Middle East since forever, sadly.
Even troubles in Europe now, Dubai is benefiting from it.
Which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, the troubles in Pakistan, Dubai, fiscal troubles in Europe, people are moving here. So they are really benefiting in different ways.
And that's why I always wonder how safe we are, without trying to be the negative guy in the room. I always question, it is a leadership like you've said, and in my heart I think we're always going to be safe, and of course I want us to always be safe. I think there's a lot of people that don't want Dubai to always be safe, and it's through everything, not only through war but through the pandemic.
Yeah,
Dubai was safe, and it grew.
Yes.
I mean,
trust me, money is a coward. And the minute there are signs of danger, you would see them flocking out.
Yeah.
It happened during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War.
yes.
Dubai became a ghost city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember.
Yeah. And that was the time to invest, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, it's an interesting, because there's nothing like it, and like you've rightly said, it's not only the surrounding countries, it's the countries further afield.
Yes.
Even when they're suffering, somehow Dubai is booming.
Yeah, I mean, there's an exodus of billionaires worldwide to Dubai for a very good reason. Other than being in a beautiful place to live and party and play, also to put your money.
Yes.
And because of the no tax situation.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's crazy.
yeah.
Teymour is not 50 yet. So
He will be this year.
he will be this year. Right. So, and that's where I was going next. 50 years ago, you started a family, and you now have 4 incredible
As a matter of fact, 55 years ago, this year we celebrate our 55th.
wedding anniversary. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you're still walking every day, but not together. We learned this before
Well,
the show.
we do together constantly, which I choose the places and the time. And just because of a little injury in the knee,
Yeah.
we don't do it together, but we do.
Incredible. And that's one thing that, and I always tell Yasmin, I always tell Teymour, who I see a lot more than Talal and Amira, I always see you guys together, mostly talking and mostly smiling, which I think after so many years is probably something great.
Yeah, that's a puzzle.
It's a puzzle, is it? What do you think? Let's go there. What are the ingredients of your incredible marriage for 55 years?
Mutual respect. Bend, don't break. Having things in common that you enjoy, which is really, it's a lottery ticket for that, because many people don't have the same interests and they part away with age. Luckily, we still have it.
We hear a lot in maybe the modern age, let's say, about really working on a relationship and ensuring that those things are aligned. Has that come naturally, or do you see it and do you have to consciously make sure that you're staying close together?
You really have to work on it. Really. Day in, day out. Never let go. And I always say the glue that used to bring marriage together is not as strong these days as it used to be.
Why do you think that is?
I guess the world changed relationships changed. You have maybe 20, 30 relationships before you marry. And then when that thing becomes problematic, you break it straight away. You don't keep working on it.
We're paralyzed by choice.
Yeah.
And technology is giving us
everything, yeah.
Even more choice.
That's true.
Do you think that's the way humanity was supposed to roll out?
Well, you know, the percentage of divorces in the society worldwide is averaging 50%. I mean, in my parents' days, divorce was not an option. In mine, even with all my friends, we don't have any friends that have divorced.
Wow.
But in my children's generation, it's becoming 50%, and I worry about my grandchildren.
You would have come, I'm sure, to hard times with your wife. There would have been times where it was really challenging. I can only visualize it, and the reason I hopefully you tell me no, but to move to a country like Dubai in a time when you did, traveling today between Dubai, Tehran, and Beirut is hard. So I can't even dream what it was like 40 years ago. Bringing up 4 children, you faced all of the hard things, and they're probably 10 times harder than we all face today.
Well, that's an interesting question, but I guess we were lucky. I guess we worked hard on it. I guess we were lucky with our children and the grandchildren, and it worked for us. Okay, it's like a miracle, like Dubai.
A miracle marriage in a miracle city.
Exactly.
I mean,
we're very lucky.
It's absolutely beautiful, and like I say, we saw each other a lot more, which sounds like we were doing something naughty, but we saw each other more during COVID because you were on the beach track a lot and I was on, and I always saw you guys in almost, I guess, almost like a bubble of love.
Well, thank you very much. As a matter of fact, when there was the lockdown and our house is in Jumeirah, a villa with a garden, we used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, and we used to walk around the house for an hour and a half, and then do the push-ups and the sit-ups and all these things to keep up until we are allowed to go out and explore the world, because they even forbade us to go into malls or to supermarkets. After the age of 60, you couldn't go in.
Of course.
So we had to make the best use of the house.
It's incredible, and again, it's so beautiful to see. So Teymour is 50 this year.
Don't ask about Yasmin. That's not nice.
Yasmin is sat in the room, and so far she didn't get any hard time. You gave her all the hard time without the microphones recording, which I think she's happy about. Yeah. She's been on the podcast before, and I think we have to get her back sometime now that she's completed her challenge of basically running all over Dubai, every single street, which must make you very proud.
Well, as a matter of fact, I'll tell you a little story about Yasmin. You know, she was the first child with us here.
Right.
When we came in 72. And we were staying with our in-laws until we found our house. And our house was near the old zoo. And we used to cross the one-lane road to go into the beach. And the beach was still very wild. And we used to walk. And Yasmin, as a teenager, bored, would sit down and say, "What do you think? I'm going to run a marathon with you?"
No
and
way.
Look where she ended up.
Look where she ended up. I think no teenager ever visualizes themselves running more than to get away from their friends.
Exactly.
And look at what we end up doing. It's phenomenal.
And did she tell you that I coined her as Pink Taxi?
No.
Yes. because she
Really?
was constantly going around the streets of Dubai, delivering her daughter here, taking her son there, and then they had introduced the pink taxi.
Yes.
So I called it pink taxi.
No way. So you're the founder of her famous Twitter account, or X account, as we should say now, Pink Taxi Driver.
I should have taken a patent for that,
Yeah,
but
you should have
she doesn't pay me any.
He doesn't. No. So 4 children.
Yep.
That's a lot
Yes, for this time.
for this time. Yeah.
Yes, but we managed it. Life was simpler.
Yeah.
You know, standards were simpler. Demands were simpler. Now, with this horrible social media that's supposed to be positive, it's negative. They see everything. They want more. This is not enough. And also, third generations are spoiled because the first generation makes it hard. Second generation takes advantage of it. The third generation is bored and say, "Oh, this is not enough," and things like that. So, no, it was easy for us to bring them up the way we wanted to. One thing we wanted them to follow is education was paramount. For us, they all had to have the maximum of education, and
Really?
this was achieved. The second, fitness. Their mother really involved them in so many activities: horseback riding, swimming, ice skating, all types that were available in Dubai. They were
Really?
forced to.
So your wife was the Pink Taxi lady of the 70s and early 80s,
That's true.
basically.
Though she never drove, we had a driver. Yeah.
It must be incredibly rewarding to look at what you've built in those 4 human beings. They're all, I mean, how do you define success? I'll define it as they're all very successful. And
Well, they are my achievement. And when people ask me, what have you achieved in life? I say, my children.
really?
Yes.
So nothing else matters.
No.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. And they all have the same glow that you have as well.
I hope so.
No, but I mean, I've been fortunate enough to spend over 10 years in the presence of predominantly Teymour and Yasmin coming to the gym.
Yes.
I've met Amir on a few occasions, and Talal has come from time to time as well. And I can see exactly, talking to you, and this is the longest we've had a conversation for,
Yes.
but it's the same. You are Teymour, you are Abu Teymour.
And the grandchildren.
Really?
You know, you have Turab.
Yes,
You have,
yeah, we have
Mirwais.
Yeah, we have all of the grandchildren.
Yeah, the third
as well.
generation.
Is it the same? Is it the same coming through? Do you think?
Yeah, I think they are all lovely because, you know, they have been raised the same way their parents were raised.
Yeah.
You know, you plant, you find it in front of you.
Yes.
And you give time, at the end of the day, you reap it.
It starts to grow. Huh?
Yes, yes.
Do you think you were quite structured in the upbringing and quite strict in the way you brought them up
Yes.
on purpose?
Well, you see, you can be strict with your children if you give them all the love you can give. You know, you can't be strict. You have to give an example. If you don't give the proper example for your children, then they say, "Who are you to tell us what?" So, I guess this is how they build their character.
So you're working hard. You are loving hard.
That's right.
You're working on your
And
relationship.
I'm getting it back now. I'm rewarded.
How many years did you work hard to start getting it back?
I
Because
guess.
it must have been tough.
Yeah, I guess I've been, since they graduated and they got married and they got their jobs and they got their life, you know. It's so nice to see them enjoying themselves and happy.
It must be it must be crazy when you're all together, maybe in your house in Jumeirah.
That's right.
That must be satisfaction.
It is very much so. Though we don't expect much from them. They are busy with their children, with their life, with their thing. Our house is open.
Yeah.
This is where I tell my little grandchildren when they come, I said, whose house is this? I said, it's your house. Whenever you are willing to come and visit, it's welcome. We don't expect, we don't call, why aren't you coming? Why aren't you here? No, they come whenever they feel like it.
I imagine they feel like coming a lot, though.
Yes.
That must be, again, that's the real success. Do you see a lot of how you brought them up in the ways that they're bringing their families up? If that makes sense?
Well, nothing is identical, but I guess it's the same stream.
Which again must be a very proud moment for you.
Sure, yes. Though now they're afraid of marriage, the third generation, they're afraid. They want to have their jobs first. They want to experience. They want to live until 30 to be able to think about marriage. I've been blamed by them that, why do you keep on saying, when are you getting married? How are you going to do it? so we
stop. You ask them a lot, do you?
Yeah, well, we do. We both do.
I guess that's only natural, because you know how much happiness marriage and family has brought you, and you want it for
the same
for that younger generation.
That's right.
You said something there before about the younger generation, of how things have changed, and we touched on it briefly. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I'm quite a bit younger than you, but I feel it as well, and we deal with children here in the gym. The children are different from the children I went to school with. It's easy to get frustrated, and it's easy to say, iPhone's the problem. But what are the solutions? How can we help the younger generations to have what you had, or potentially what I had as well, knowing that we think that that's a good life?
See, in my days, we used to call ourselves bookworms. I mean, I used to read a lot.
Yeah.
Even before I reached my teens. And I read classics in Arabic and in English at a very early age, because I did not have a phone, I did not have a television, I did not have an iPad, and now you don't see kids writing even, barely. Their handwriting is bad. They're constantly following this one and that one, and I haven't seen one of my grandchildren open a book, because they say it's enough to be studying, but they don't open a book. They're constantly on these machines.
It's so interesting, because one of the questions that we ask people in our recruitment process, they have to fill up an online form, which is against writing and reading, but that's the way it goes. Yeah. And one of the questions that we ask them is, what is the last book that you read? And I probably read somewhere around 10 to 15 job applications a week, and 90% of them say that they don't read.
Yeah, I know.
Is that a problem?
You see, it depends, because I consider books my best friend.
Yeah.
And near my bed, I have maybe 10 books or 12 books
really?
at a time.
Yeah.
And the little kids come. My youngest grandson is 7. And he looks, what's this pile of junk that my grandfather has near him?
Really?
Yeah, of course, because I don't think they see their parents having books near them. I think in my family, immediate family, my daughters read a lot. My boys much less. But I don't know about because the boys are lawyers.
Yes.
And they're constantly reading.
Yeah.
In their work, so they want to relax.
Yeah.
I think more reading exhausts them.
Yes.
But my daughters, luckily, still have time to read poetry, to read books, to read literature. And for instance, Yasmin hates television,
Yeah.
which enables her to read.
To read a bit more. It's interesting. Teymour sends me a lot of articles.
Yes.
That he's obviously read. And yeah, maybe that consumes all of the bandwidth of...
Yeah, Teymour is basically the most of my children who read news. He's very political, and he loves to read about politics and the area, and I think because it helps him in his role
For sure.
as a general counsel to a big company. And because if you don't know what's in the environment and what's around you, you won't be able to advise.
100%. So do we get to a point where with the younger generation, we have to relax a little bit and say, okay, you're getting a lot of information. The way that you get it is different from the way that we get it, and we enjoy to get it. But so long as you have good values and you're a nice person, the way that you continue to learn, it's changing, and that's okay.
Yes, this is each generation has its time. Each generation has a way to educate themselves.
Yes.
And they are extremely competitive nowadays even to enter universities, and they are doing okay.
Yeah.
They are managing. So I guess they're not doing badly.
They're not doing bad.
Yes.
And I think maybe it goes back to what you said, when you sit and you see your family, you see your children, and you see your grandchildren, they're happy, they're loving each other. That's what success is.
That's true.
So, yeah, it's difficult because we want to speak to them, but they're playing on an iPhone.
You see people in coffee shops sitting, and 4 or 5 members of the family, and they're always on their phones or walking. Instead of looking at this beach and enjoying seeing other people, they go on their
crazy,
constantly following people.
And sometimes I actually want to stop those people.
Exactly.
But then I'm like, I think everyone's on their own path, aren't they? And for some people, they haven't quite got it figured out, what you've got figured out, that to go for your walk with no distraction, no notifications or nothing is what's serving you the very best at that time. Yeah. If that person wasn't on their phone when they were walking, then probably the walk would not happen and they would just be on their phone.
The only time I use my phone when I'm walking is to take a picture.
Yes.
That's it. I never use it to contact anybody or receive.
Did you try and resist getting a smartphone, an iPhone?
No, but my wife did. She doesn't have one. I got her a number similar to her home number, but she has a burner, and she even doesn't use the burner.
Unbelievable, huh?
Yeah.
It's
but she loves her iPad. She has 3 of them.
What does she use it for?
Just to look through and news and
Yeah.
follow-ups and things like that.
Facebook?
No. I'm not on any social media.
You don't use social media
No
at all?
Instagram, no Facebook, nothing.
That's good.
I don't have time for it.
You're quite busy. Being retired is tough, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you do then in, obviously family's big, sport's big now. You're at a stage of life where you can do almost what you want. What do you do to fill your day and to, aside from the family stuff, to continue satisfaction, shall we say?
Well, I read a lot. I meet my friends. I have several friends here,
Nice.
whether Dubaians or Levantines. Levantines, that's Palestinians, Iraqi, Lebanese, Syrians. And then I spend most of the time with my wife.
Nice.
And the grandkids come and say, but how can you do it? 24/7 But I think it sinks in them that they would look forward to having the same relationship.
Yeah. It's funny, my mum said something to me a few weeks ago. She said, she was laying on the bed and she said, you and Holly do everything together. And I was like, oh, she's never said something like this before. Suddenly my ears are like, I was like, what do you mean? She said, well, you do sport together, you cook together, which is not true. She cooks most of the time, but she makes me cook the barbecue. And she just went through this whole list of things that we do together. And I said to her, I said, yeah, actually, you know, when someone, it's like you say, the children, when they see it, you're like, actually, yeah, we spend a lot of time together. And she just looked at me, she said, don't ever stop doing that.
That's right.
And since that day, I've thought about it probably almost every day. And it's exactly
I'm glad. I'm happy for you that way.
Yeah, it's I don't know. And now that you've said it, it's another another sign. I mean, I had a guest on the show. I've had him on a couple of times, and he talks about knocks at the door. And he said, if you hear a small knock, you should actually go and see, because it might be, you know, so maybe mum was knocking on the door and telling me something, and now you've knocked again. But it's so beautiful, 55 years, and that is one of the things you do to occupy your day, spend time with your wife.
That's right. That's right.
It's really, it's really cool. How do you continue to share your vision and your traditions and your culture, kind of where we started, with your family? Do you do it consciously, or does it just happen?
Well, I make a point, for instance, to send lots of my pictures to my younger grandchildren, you know, and even Talal's son came to me last time. He said, you know, you send me too many pictures. I said, yes, because I would like you to experience what I see. And I would like you to look at this world in a frame, because this is how I look at everything, in a frame. And I want you to look at the flowers, at the colors. You know, many people pass by gardens, pass by flowers, pass by beautiful scenery, and you don't see it. So I want to instill in them, especially the younger ones, this love for nature.
Now it's making sense why Yasmin sends me pictures when you're wearing an InnerFight shirt.
Yes.
It's the same thing, but it's one of the benefits of smartphones, of social media, in a way, because we can share it directly. It's super powerful, right?
It is, but I prefer the olden days, because I am a photographer, or I'm not a photographer. I'm not a professional, but I have around 400 albums of printed photographs between my houses. And that I miss, because, I mean, I have my smartphone and the cloud, and I have thousands of pictures. As a matter of fact, Google followers have ticked on my pictures 8.5 million times.
Wow.
Now, I don't ever send pictures of people, only of cities, of views, of beautiful flowers, beautiful things. So I feel that the print was much more special.
Yes.
Like receiving a letter with a stamp on it.
Yeah.
And this is what I do at the end of every summer. You know, I send a yearly letter to my children with stamps on it.
Wow.
Just to keep the tradition, which is non-existent anymore.
It is non-existent. And I was recently in the UK and riding my bike through a lot of old villages close to where I went to school. And one thing that I noticed is that all of the village post offices are no longer there. No. They've been replaced with... It's interesting that for the most part, they've been replaced with coffee shops, which is bringing communities together. Yeah. So whilst we're not communicating in written word, there was a lot of people in these coffee shops. But yeah.
Yeah, my children or my grandchildren, they miss the situation where they receive a letter or a postcard.
Yes.
Anything, they don't know it. And
we almost have, I almost feel we have a responsibility to, and I'm not good at that, by the way, right? My mom was very good. Yeah. And when she passed, Holly made a great joke. We were going past a greeting card shop. Yeah, and she said, "Oh, now your mum's passed, they'll probably go out of business." And I was crying, laughing, because she would send a card for anything. Yeah. And she would always remember people's birthdays or have her address book and her diary, and it would always be there. And at the end of the year, she'd rewrite the birthdays into the next diary so that she could send the... There is a lot of power in writing still.
It is. As a matter of fact, I don't know if any of my kids even or my grandchildren have a box with old letters.
Yes.
I have a box with old letters between me and my wife when we were dating and when we got married.
Yes.
Dating. I mean, it's beautiful, but they don't have it anymore.
Yeah, I have a similar box to that. Mm-hmm. School reports.
Okay.
I still have some school reports from when I was 9 or 10 years old.
Were they good?
No. Which is so interesting to read.
It's a reminder.
It's a reminder. It's so interesting. If only Marcus applied himself. If only he listened.
Yeah.
And I say all the time.
But you have done a wonderful...
I mean, I'm happy.
Think for yourself. That's the most important, to be happy. You know, to be content.
To be content.
Yeah.
Have you always been this relaxed and content? He looks towards his daughter, Yasmin, who's sat here.
You know, I'm a Taurus, and usually I'm very patient and very loyal. But boy, when I see red.
Really?
Yes, but that's rarely happens.
Is it less now than it was, or
it's much less, much less. I've always been that way. I mean, but you really have to push me to get me into that stage.
So, and I only have 2 questions left, and this is one of them.
Tell me.
How does someone with that relaxed attitude that's not 300 miles an hour, because the world is telling us to be 300 miles an hour and you've got to go and your goals have got to be this and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you listen to anyone these days or any silly podcast like this these days. Everyone is bigger, better, more aggressive. Push this guy out the way. Don't talk to... How... You've been super successful. How you can do it without being 300 miles an hour?
Well, I was 300 miles an hour before. I mean, we passed through lots of ups and downs. Right. It was not easy for us to reach where we were. But when we reached, we relaxed.
Nice. So there's a time to open the gas.
Of course.
But it's always the time to be a good person.
That's right.
So if we could wrap it up in your best piece of advice, if you were to write me a letter, and I was to say to you, Abu Teymour, don't make it too long because my phone will beep and I'll get distracted. Please could you write in a letter for me the best piece of advice that you could share with another human being? What would it be?
The world is full of temptations. You have to respect yourself, your family, your grandchildren to be able to overcome all these temptations.
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you for having me.
This was cool. I now have 2 of your family done. Maybe we'll go. We could get Teymour.
Yeah, Teymour should be very interesting.
And see how they line up.
Yes.
Abu Teymour, thank you so much. What you've shared with our
friend.
three listeners will be very valuable for all of them. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.